everyone. Thank you for joining us for Lemon Live at 5. We're so glad that you are here. Let us know where you are streaming from, please. Here is the interesting thing about what you guys saw what the subject of today's show is, and that is about the folks are worried, really concerned about political violence, about violence. I hate to have to talk to you about this, but it is real, okay? So let me set the stage before I bring the guests in and we get into the conversation. I know you already know this from the conversations that you've been having with friends, the stories that you have been seeing on the news. You know that it's kind of just the vibes in the air. This nation is a powder keg right now. Everyone is anxious, they're nervous, they're worried, or whatever. Some people are taking it to an extreme, and that's what we're going to talk about. I don't know about you, but I'm very worried about what's going to happen next week. I really am. Not just on November 5th, but the days and weeks to follow, and even leading up when there's actually more tension on this election. There is a brand new congressional report out that I want to tell you about. It was released yesterday. It reveals there is bipartisan concern among U.S. lawmakers that the next week's election may incite another round of political chaos or violence in Washington, D.C., and possibly elsewhere. There's a brand new congressional report. It was released today. Said this bipartisan concern is really being held by everyone. The report was signed by more than a dozen representatives. It comes on the heels of U.S. Capitol Police ramping up security to an unprecedented level. They do not want a repeat of January 6th on November 5th or 6th or beyond. Swing states are also preparing for potential chaos. This is what Reuters is reporting, that this week at Philadelphia's ballot counting will take place downtown in a warehouse that is surrounded by fencing, topped with barbed wire. In Detroit and Atlanta, election offices have had bulletproof glass installed to protect election workers. Where? How on earth did we get to this? We did not have this before the lies of a stolen election by Donald Trump and the MAGA folks. Let's just be honest. We did not have this before. Officials are worried that we could not see just one January 6th type event, but scores of many January 6th type events all across the country. So much more to unpack here. Two perfect guests here to help us out, and I'm so glad that they're here. Hi, Claire Woodall. Claire is the senior advisor for Issue 1. And also, Dr. Carah Ong Whaley is the Vice President of Election Protection at Issue 1 as well. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. Tell us what you believe what is the Issue 1 for our audience here, and tell us what you're doing and why you're so concerned, please.
Well, let me just start off, first of all, with the big general issue about violence and political violence. Overwhelming majority, even though we are seeing people that might be saying that they are willing to take violence if their candidate doesn't win, or they want to prevent a candidate from taking office, that really is a small majority of the public, and the overwhelming majority of Americans do reject violence in the wake of the election and reject political violence. So I think the most important thing between now and Election Day is people make sure that they go to the polls together, that they vote, and they make sure that their votes are counted, and to not be scared away by the counter peg, as you said. It's a perfect analogy for it, for not be scared away by the powder keg that we're in, and to get out and to vote. That's first and foremost. And then I think the second thing, and I'm sure Claire will want to delve into this a little bit more, but local election officials across the country are working really hard to ensure that our elections remain safe, secure, and fair, even in spite of the fact that they are on the receiving end and are bearing the brunt of the increased threats, harassment, and intimidation that we have seen as a result of the spread of the big lie.
Yeah. And Claire, what's Issue 1 for you?
I think it's exactly what Carah just said. I'm a former election official in the city of Milwaukee, big swing state, spent 11 years in election administration. And I think us ensuring that our votes are counted, not intimidating election workers who are your neighbors, your friends, you go to church with them. They are there because they love our country and they love democracy, and they want to count every single vote. And our system, no matter what state you live in, has so many checks and balances that it is impossible for one individual or for a group of individuals, quite frankly, because of the levels of validation for any one person to really be rigging the election. Yet we see individuals receiving these death threats, these threats of violence. And it's really, it's made a profession of nerds who love data and process and procedure really fear for their lives.
Yeah. This is a report that I saw this morning on the threat that is out there and what officials are doing to keep the election process safe and to keep election workers safe as well. Here it is.
Issues surrounding the 2024 race, the safety of election workers and officials who are facing increasing threats as November 5th looms. NBC's Stephanie Goss joins us with that part of the story. Hey, Steph, morning.
Hoda, good morning. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security are warning law enforcement nationwide over a threat from violent domestic extremists. That's according to a joint intelligence bulletin reviewed by NBC News. Now, when voters go to the polls, they will likely see increased security because of that. Everything from more police, metal detectors, even bulletproof glass. This morning, with early voting underway nationwide, a growing list of alarming incidents in the build-up to Election Day. Multiple ballot box fires set by incendiary devices in Portland, Oregon, and Vancouver, Washington, where hundreds of ballots were destroyed. Authorities say this suspect vehicle was spotted at both sites, but they haven't made any arrests.
Acts like this are targeted and they're intentional, and we're concerned about that intentional act trying to affect the election process.
In a Texas voting center where campaign materials are not allowed by law, a man allegedly assaulted an election clerk who told him to remove a MAGA hat.
I can't think of anything like this happening during my time here as sheriff, and I certainly hope to never see it again.
With election workers' safety among their concerns, state and local election officials tell NBC News they've put in a range of new security measures since 2020. There's bulletproof glass at the Harford County Board of Elections office in Maryland. The mailroom in Durham County, North Carolina, soon to be equipped with a panic button. And in Maricopa County, Arizona, snipers will be set up on the tabulation center's rooftop.
Goodness.
In Philadelphia, mail-in ballots will be counted in this warehouse outside the city center.
Count all legal votes.
4 years ago, the count looked like this at the convention center downtown.
We will have a very heavy law enforcement presence.
City Commissioner Seth Bluestein says this time around they have more control with gates, fences topped with barbed wire, and multiple checkpoints. Do you feel like you need that security for this election?
Unfortunately, I think it's necessary. We have to be prepared for the worst case scenario.
Bluestein, like many election officials, faced violent threats in 2020 against himself and his family. Father of three, moving his family elsewhere during the election.
It's really frustrating. Nobody should feel unsafe doing the job of counting votes.
A study published this year by the Brennan Center for Justice found nearly 40% of election workers say they are facing abuse and harassment, and over 90% of local officials have taken steps to increase election security for both the workers and the voters.
So, guys, I mean, it's unbelievable we thank our friends over at the Today Show for that. Carah, where did this all come from? I know that people have been heated. I've been alive long enough to live through a bunch of elections, a lot of presidential elections. Where is all this coming from?
So I think we have clearly seen an uptick, especially in the threats, harassment, and intimidation of election officials serving their communities, especially since the 2020 election. But we have seen it as a result of the spread of false election information. And that is magnified by social media platforms not actioning on their policies to remove content that is harmful or that spreads false election information. But really, I mean, this goes all the way to the top. I mean, we are seeing on a daily basis people repeat false claims about how our elections work, about the processes, and it has absolutely undermined confidence. Our research shows, we've done a number of surveys, especially this fall, and our research shows there are clear divides in the electorate about confidence in the elections, and that's because the sides are hearing two different things.
Yeah. Claire, we have a little bit of a delay. We're on the road and we've been talking to people. There's concern out here We have not seen that type of violence or threats. Our trek across the country, either to Illinois or from Florida back up to New York. We haven't seen that, but it's clear that it's out there. In your assessment, where is this coming from? Because it started with the lie about election fraud, or that the election was stolen. There were many courts across the land who said that is just not true. So what do we do from here? Is there any way we can fix it besides, as Carah said, better content moderation, the folks at the top, even the president, the former president, maybe they can rein themselves in? Is there any other fix beyond that?
You know, election officials across the country have been spending at least the past 4 years adding communications as one of the top priorities within their offices, of trying to communicate with their voters how processes work. Issue 1 has created a website, howelectionswork.org, to try to get the real information out there. You know, I would go to many meetings, whether there would be 20 people or 200, just to answer questions about how voting machines work, how central count, the processing of absentee ballots work, and encouraging people to really observe the process. Every state has election observers. It differs depending on which state about whether you need to be affiliated with a party, but all of elections is open to the public, and election officials are doing their absolute best to try to communicate that information and really have the public see them as the trusted messengers, because they're the experts. This would be as if, you know, I was coming in and trying to audit when I have no auditing experience in finance. So it's really trying to understand a skilled profession as an outsider. And so election officials all over have been working as hard as possible to make themselves accessible, which is really also difficult, because when you are in a atmosphere of threats and of vigilance about your own safety, to then turn around and put yourself out there more, it's really, you know, it's really pretty heroic, quite frankly.
Yeah. We have just seen the election officials in Georgia, the lawsuit with Rudy Giuliani and the spreading of disinformation about that, and a defamation case where now they have taken his luxury penthouse apartment in New York City and all of his valuable possessions. Perhaps they should start getting serious about, I'm sure maybe they can be more serious, making people aware of just what could happen if they do interfere, or if there is election violence. I mean, take, for example, it was mentioned in this report, hundreds of these ballots were destroyed or damaged in fires that were set on Monday, 2 ballot drop boxes in the Pacific Northwest, and investigators are searching for a person that they believe is responsible for both those incidents. Almost all of the ballots that were damaged or destroyed were in a box in Vancouver, Washington. Most of the ballots in a drop box in Portland, Oregon survived a fire set on that same day, election officials said. The incidents are believed to be connected to a third fire on October 8th, also in Vancouver. I believe someone has a key open. So as we watch this, someone is going to get hurt with this. Carah, someone is going to get hurt. And it may not be an election worker. It could be an average citizen. How does one keep themselves safe in these situations?
Well, one of the things we can do is vote together, go in pairs, take your friends or your family members. I always take my kids, because it's also a civic education. It's an opportunity for civic education as well. And also we know that when we vote together, it makes it more celebratory. And so that is one way to do it. There are also a number of lines you can call if you don't want to go with a friend. There are voter protection networks that can help escort you. So that is one thing to do. I think, especially in this case, we know there was a connection in these incidences of arson. And I think one thing, you know, what I'm concerned about, what keeps me up, is that we'll see more copycats like this. And I think, Don, to your point, like, we need to highlight the penalties that are in place. There are both federal laws and state laws against arson for destroying and tampering ballots and ballot boxes. So we do also need to highlight those penalties, and that people will face a crime. They will face, they will be penalized for engaging in this kind of behavior.
Yeah. Let's see. Claire, there are hundreds of, again, reports, or not hundreds of reports, but there were hundreds of ballots in those boxes. And then there's a threat that goes beyond that. I'm going to put this picture up of as an 18-year-old boy wielding an 18-inch giant knife outside a polling station in Florida on Tuesday. He was arrested. He was part of a group of teenagers accused of intimidating Democratic supporters. He was arrested on charges of aggravated assault for allegedly brandishing his weapon at two unidentified women, 71 years old and 54 years old, and improper exhibition of a weapon. This is in Neptune Beach, Florida. You think these folks do not realize like the trouble that they can get in? Because interfering in an election, tampering with a ballot box, you can get life in prison.
Yeah, no, I think that they are not aware of it, and they are just really riffing off of the environment we're seeing online. You know, that was actually, I think I read it was like a 23-inch or 20, it was a machete. It wasn't
18-inch machete, yeah, 18 inches.
And, you know, the look of joy and glee on his face, thinking he was doing something that was menacing but funny.
Hang on, let's put the picture back up so they can see what we're talking about.
When it comes to our fundamental right to vote and have a voice in our democracy, it's just, I think this is the perfect illustration of where we have gotten to in society. And earlier, you know, you said this could affect not just election workers, but ordinary citizens. I would just like to remind everyone again, your election workers are ordinary citizens. When you go to your neighborhood polling place, many of them are volunteering. They're all there. And we used to have really a culture of celebration of no matter what our viewpoints were, we settled them at the ballot box. And that was a place where we came together regardless of our views. But really this division and hatred, I think that we're seeing spewing is just overflowing from our social media environments and from our internet, where, you know, you can be really brave and bold and really hateful behind a keyboard.
Yeah. Carah, this is all intimidation tactics. If people really want to get out there, it should not discourage them from going to a polling place.
No, it shouldn't, because our vote is our voice in this process. And if we don't vote, we cannot be represented, and our elected leaders are less likely to listen to us. And we know that the false information is disproportionately targeted, especially at communities of color. And that is really a problem, because if we think about the policy implications and the outcomes for that. So we really do need to focus on protecting the vote and making sure every eligible citizen, every eligible American is able to cast their ballot. And then we also need to make sure that every eligible vote is counted. And we know that our election officials are working really hard to make sure that that happens. I saw a picture right before we jumped onto your show, Don, of the election workers behind the scenes now sorting through the ballots that were wet and burned. And they're working tirelessly behind the scenes to go through and figure out which voters they need to contact. So again, we can't let the actions of some of these individuals, whether it's a young man in Florida or even some of the militias we heard in that NBC announcement, organizing and being prepared to try to threaten and harass. We have to go out and vote, and please get good information. You can visit howelectionswork.org. And if you have the wherewithal, please also support your local election official.
Well, I mean, I've gotten some really valuable information from you guys. And again, just because there's violence out there, you have to listen to what Carah just said. Your vote is your voice, and you have to get out there. Just be safe. Do what they say. Go vote together if you can. I want to thank Claire Woodall, the senior advisor for Issue 1, and Dr. Carah Ong Whaley, a vice president of the election protection at Issue 1. Really great information. And I thank you for helping us bring awareness to this and also trying to fix this problem. Thank you both.
Thank you so much, Don. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Take care. Take care. So guys, here we go. We're so glad again that you're here. And I want to tell you, obviously we're out on the road. I wish I was, in a place where the Signal was a little bit more stable, but I think we're doing great things out here, and people are learning a lot from the stuff that we're putting up. We hear it in the streets everywhere we go. People say, "I just was watching one of your videos," and whatever. Just so you know, we are in. We went to the Harris Walls headquarters in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the county of Lancaster, actually the town of Lancaster, and it's going to be very pivotal in the election. We also went to the Trump Vance headquarters, and two different treatments. And we'll tell you about it. You'll see it on our social media, and also we'll put it up on the channel tomorrow for you. But I just have to tell you, as we are here, there are lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Latinos here. They outnumber, as we've been told, the Mennonites and others that people think are a bigger demographic here. Puerto Ricans are a huge, huge demographic in Pennsylvania, especially in Lancaster County. And so as we were speaking to them, I got to tell you, the whole joke about Puerto Rico and Latinos, jokes at Madison Square Garden from this past weekend, that the Trump campaign is in trouble. I told you it's going to stick. It could cost them the election. And we ran into one person that really makes the case of just how serious it is. This one woman's response encapsulates everything that many people are feeling. Many Puerto Ricans, many Latinos are feeling about what happened at Madison Square Garden and how they feel about the Trump campaign. Watch.
Rican?
Yes, I am.
You are. Did anything that happened at Madison Square Garden last week?
Yes. Yes, it did affect. Yes, it did affect my decision a lot.
What was it like to hear that Puerto Rico is floating garbage in the ocean?
It was horrible because it is not true. It is nice for them to go on vacation, I bet, to my island and enjoy the beautiful people over there in the culture. But you're going to call us trash? How much have we contributed? Because my people go to war just like every other American citizen here in the United States.
You are American citizens.
Yes.
You're not immigrants.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like every other American citizen here, we all go to war.
The MAGA folks, the Trump folks are saying, oh, it's a joke. It's not a big deal.
No, it's not a joke. That was not a joke.
Were you leaning towards him before this?
I would say yes.
And now?
No.
You think it's going to make a difference in the election?
Yes, it's going to make a difference.
Do you think that the Puerto Rican community could
yes, absolutely
decide who's going to be president?
Yes. As a female, we were already leaning more towards Kamala when it has to do with women's rights. So now you just pushed us even more. Now you pushed the Puerto Rican women even more.
You said you were leaning towards him to vote, and now you're like, Wow.
I didn't want to say so, but no, he doesn't have my vote.
Thank you.
You heard her, right? And listen, there wasn't one person who was, and we asked folks if they were Puerto Rican. There wasn't one person who said that they were going to vote for him. There was one person who said, I don't want to say what my vote is, but it was certainly in poor taste, and it was a dumb move for them to choose a comedian. And so I didn't hear one person who said, absolutely, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying those folks are not going to change their mind between now and then. It's not that many days, 6 days to the election. I'm telling you, this is sticky. Folks are pissed. Even a huge Puerto Rican star, Nicky Jam, has now backed away from his endorsement and support of Donald Trump. It was controversial because Donald Trump called him up on stage. He is huge. How many followers does he have? 43 million followers on Instagram, right? 43 million followers on Instagram. He's a huge star, huge Puerto Rican star. He is backed away now. We know what Bad Bunny did. We know what Jennifer Lopez did. We know what Ricky Martin did. And there are going to be others. And you cannot insult someone's, not just a culture, but an entire island, an entire people, and don't have people feel a certain kind of way about it. Some people say, oh, it's just a joke. I'm sure that there are Puerto Ricans who feel that way. But this is a very big deal. And I think it would have been a better idea if Donald Trump had just said, I'm sorry, that comedian should not have said that, and he should have never been up there on stage. Instead, he said, I have no idea who it is. It's just a joke. That's what his folks are saying. It's a comedian or whatever. Bad response. And you know that it's an issue because they had to respond, or they're trying to ignore it completely as if it's not a big deal. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's go to the comments, please. Susan Charlie says, Puerto Rico is a beautiful country with generous, loving people. I agree. Absolutely. I agree. But did Nikki Jam vote already? Question mark. That is true. That makes an even bigger difference to me. A lot of Cubans are voting for Trump, says Darius Shannon. By the way, the previous comment was from Miranda77. Yes, a lot of Cuban Americans, because I send it to my Latino friends and about Latinos for Trump, and they'll say, those are the Cubans in Miami. Those are the Cubans. Those are the Cubans. They are different than us. Tracy Jones says, this is sticking. Maria Aquino says, great reporting from your Lemonhead. Thank you. I appreciate that. DL says, I grew up in New York City. Puerto Ricans are all like family. That mess was shocking to me. Yeah, it's true. Marcel White Stein says, Don, I am so exhausted and nervous. VP Harris has to win. There are many people who feel the exact same way. Leaning towards him for what he's been saying, this nonsense is nonsense, says B1 and only. Well, there you go. I would encourage you guys to talk to your Puerto Rican friends or Latino friends and really just sort of get an idea of how they feel about this. Because this, and as I live and breathe, this is probably the October surprise. There could be another one, but this is the one. This Kill Tony comedian is very possibly going to kill Donald Trump's chances of becoming president again. You cannot insult a culture like that, not a whole people in an island like that. Americans, they're American citizens, they're not immigrants, not apologize for it, not take ownership for it or of it, not pretend that you didn't know about it, and then the reporting comes out and says, oh yeah, they did know about it. They not only they know about it, they vetted it and they put it into the prompter, and then they asked that same comedian not to call the vice president as he had planned the C word. So they knew, which means this is who they are. When a political campaign shows you who they are, believe them. And I believe the Puerto Rican people are believing them, and they are abiding by that rule. So we're out and about. We are in Allentown, right? And we're living here in Allentown. We're in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We're going to talk to some folks here. Allentown is a red town, right? It's very red. So as we were in Lancaster, by the way, interesting enough, we were in Lancaster, which is supposed to be a red town, which is turning. We saw nothing but Harris Wall sign after Harris Wall sign after Harris Wall sign. All of the canvassers from the Harris Wall campaign said they have been out there. They've got like 30,000 people or whatever. Not one of them really has run into a Trump canvasser. They don't really have a ground game there. I don't know what's going on. So we went to the Harris Walls campaign headquarters there in Lancaster County, talked to the folks. They told me about their strategy, how they're working. Some people came in from other cities just to volunteer and knock on doors and do canvassing. And they couldn't have been nicer to us. We even got to talk to Senator Bob Casey, who was around. We got to talk to the mayor of Lancaster. Again, we're going to check our social media. It's going to be on there. We'll show you all of that, and then we'll put some of it up on the channel as well. And then we went on the outskirts of town to find the Trump Vance regional headquarters for Lancaster County headquarters. Very different vibe. They said, hey, my boss is on the phone and they cannot talk to you right now. Is there a number where you can call you back? And we said we were going to Allentown and whatever, and that was it. They couldn't talk to us. Very different vibe. No one in the office. The Harris Walls office was packed with volunteers. So we even have some signs in the back that we got to show you. I don't know what I did with my little things. So anyways, guys, I thank you for joining us. I'm going to see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on our Hot Topic show. I'm going to get out and go interview some folks here. There's a Harris Wallace hat. Did you see that? I'm going to go interview some folks here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And so we're happy that you could join us. Thank you for helping us build a community. By the way, we ran into a Lemonhead on the streets of Lancaster as we were talking to him, and then Senator Bob Casey walked up. We were talking to the mayor. He walked up. Then Senator Bob Casey walked up as I was talking to him. But it was Manny who came to the book signing in Oyster Bay with his little dog or whatever. I forget the dog's name. He told us. Coco. The dog's name is Coco. And he took us around town. He took us to his barbershop. His barbershop happened to be a Puerto Rican barbershop. So we got really good things. So thank you, Lemonhead Manny, part of the Lemon Nation. We appreciate it. And thank you, Lemonheads, for joining. Thank you for helping us build a Lemon Nation. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check out all of our content on social media. And make sure you watch us live on election night. We have a lot of great things, surprises planned for you, and you can even be involved. And if you go to the community page, they'll tell you how you can become part of our election night show. Okay? So thank you guys. Live from Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Bye. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, we'd love for you to become a subscriber. So hit that button, too. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern, so there's plenty of content for you to check out.